Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Deserts of Plenty. My name is Ralph. I'm an improv teacher. Yeah, I'm an improv teacher. Basically, that's what I do. And I created this podcast because when I look around the world, I see a lot of well, like I would say, we are awash in calories, but lacking in nutrition. We are awash in experiences, but lacking in connection, and awash in information, but lacking in knowledge. And, just I created this because I just needed to talk about it and sort it out for myself. And anybody who's interested, please come along for the ride. So, yeah, it seems like I was reading this book, Factfulness, which I recommend. And it's a book about it's this doctor who's worked in many parts of the world who makes the case that despite how bad we all think it is, actually the world is much, much better off in general than it was even a few years ago. Like the best time to be alive in the history of the planet, if you're a human being, no matter your race or sexual orientation, religion, whatever, is right now. If you're just a random person, that's not to say that everything's perfect. It's of course not. Like, two things can be true at the same time. Things can be better, but they can still be a long way to go. And that's hard for a lot of us to understand. But, that's in his book, he makes that case that, the general perception is that things are getting worse. And there are things that are worse for sure. Like, the environment and the havoc that we're wreaking upon it. But at the expense of that environment, what has happened? Well, we've lifted a huge amount of people out of what he calls level 1 poverty into level 2, level 3, and level 4. Level 4 is the affluent, quote unquote, West. Level 1 is pretty much extreme poverty, where people make less than $1 a day. And but the number of people living in absolute poverty or living in level 1 type poverty is, as a percentage of the population, the lowest it has ever been. The number of people dying in conflicts as a percentage of the population, the lowest it's ever been. And of course, that does little to comfort people who live in Yemen or Syria or Iraq or the Ukraine. But as a percentage of the population, the people involved in conflict, lowest it's ever been in the history of the planet. The number of people involved, who are slaves, lowest it's ever been in the history of the planet. 99.99999% of all people who have ever lived would trade places with you in a heartbeat. And that's true. Now, I think relativism is, I can't say the word, fraught with problems, I'll say. So I'm trying to keep this PG. But it is still something that, when you're thinking about practicing gratitude, one thing you can do is think about all the terrible things that are happening to you right now. Like what bad thing is not happening to me? Oh, I know. I'm not embroiled in a war. I don't have to go to bed fearing that bombs will drop in my head or that someone that I love will be killed today, tomorrow. Maybe they're already dead. I don't have that. And I know I don't speak for everybody, but for myself, I'm not facing, a terminal illness that I know of. So I can be grateful for that. I'm grateful for my, so yeah, think about all the terrible things that could happen to you. I don't have to worry where my next meal is coming from. Throughout history, people have had to worry about things like that. I don't. And that's great, and it does make me feel gratitude. So again, relativism, BS, put that way. But there is something in understanding that, boy, oh boy, there, but for the grace of God, go I could have had that kind of life, and I don't. And that's great. To put it mildly, that's pretty outstanding. And, if I were to die right now, I would think, wow, what an amazing life I've had. What an incredible, rich experience that I have had and continue to have. Like, I hope I don't drop dead tomorrow. But even if I were, like, I still was, oh, no, I wouldn't trade places with anyone on this planet right now. You couldn't pay me enough to trade places with any single person. I don't want anybody else's life but the one I have right now. And I'm exactly where I want to be. And I feel that all the time. There's something about surrendering control to the universe. Two ways to be happy, which I think I've said before. Get what you want or don't want anything. You get rid of the things you're striving for. I'm obsessed with this idea of happiness and what is happiness and how do we achieve it and how do we keep it? And is it really something that we should be striving for? A lot of philosophers, their philosophies, whatever, have said no, not for happiness, but for meaning, for connection. I think those are all true. I think happiness is a byproduct that comes, and the things that we think will make us happy don't, and that's not to say that, a level of money can't buy happiness. Cause I would never look at somebody who's struggling to pay their rent and say like, well, money can't buy happiness. I mean, they would deservedly punch me in the face, and I would, punch myself in the face if I said that to them. But from everything that I've read and understood, after a certain point, money will not make you happier, but up to a certain point. But certainly, and I've read different numbers, but I think that number, I guess, depending where you live, and I'm, of course, just talking about the US and Canada, my experience, Canada is my experience, is something around $90,000 to $100,000 household income. Beyond that, the happiness does not, go up much as you increase income. But certainly having an ability to not worry about things, send your kids to college, have them have a better life than you've had if you have children, or knowing that you're not going to die alone on the street because you've got things and resources to take care of yourself. And you know where your meals are coming from, and you live comfortably, and you can go on trips and those kinds of things. Beyond a certain point, there's no, money does not equate with happiness. So stuff doesn't bring happiness. But of course, a lack of stuff can certainly bring misery. As my father used to say, money doesn't buy happiness, but it sure makes your misery a lot easier to bear. And that's very true. It's distracting. That's for sure. Anyway, so that's it for today. It's just a little check-in and, gratitude. And I think, it's so good, for me and my mental health to think about gratitude and be grateful for everything that's happened to me, even the bad stuff, because even the people that have transgressed against me, I look like, thank you for showing me who you are. And boy, I dodged a bullet there. Or what I've learned, like the narcissists in my life have taught me so much. It's hard to be grateful. I'm grateful to those experiences, not to the person. It's like judgment. I judge actions all the time, but I don't judge people very much. Now that changes when people transgress against others. Then I would judge them harshly, but I do not judge people harshly. Anyway, that's it for today. Just wanted a little check-in. I hope you're having a great day. Where I am, it's sunny and warm and beautiful, and I'm enjoying that immensely. All right, so we'll see you back here next time for another episode of Deserts Aplenty. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.